With progress in the world of technology and the advent of the Internet of Things, the world is entering a new phase, one that requires top-quality management and a reliance on calibers that contribute to proper implementation and innovation. This is why combating corruption still remains a key challenge that needs to be overcome. Aside from the conventional definition of corruption, weak and unqualified management undermine the goal of building a strong, efficient, and accountable organization. Corruption, particularly in the form of favoritism, nepotism, and abuse of authority, can affect all management processes and lead to a decaying organization, let alone system. This is why, with all projects and plans being implemented, strong, capable, qualified, untarnished, and visionary management needs to be in place for any organization, any company, or any institution to flourish. Good evening. Welcome to the Business Insider here on Nile TV International. I'm Ayman Salah. Our weekly program tackles events affecting economies and business, and we aim to bring you the inside story. Welcome back. We start with our first news item for the week. Egypt's gas export revenues almost doubled to $3.9 billion in the first 4 months of 2022. According to the oil ministry, this is almost as much as the whole revenue in 2021. Gas receipts totaled almost $4 billion last year, jumping more than 8-fold from 2020 when exports tanked in response to the collapse in global gas prices due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The restarting of the Damietta LNG plant also helped boost exports, and both of Egypt's LNG terminals were running at full capacity by December. Global gas prices have surged over the past year. In Europe and Asia, where Egypt sells its gas, prices have hit record highs over the past 12 months on the back of tightening supply post-lockdown and the Russia-Ukraine war. European gas futures have quadrupled in price over the past 12 months. And the second and final news item for the week is that investment commitments to public-private partnership, or PPP, projects in infrastructure have begun recovering from the COVID-19 slump, with investment commitments growing 49% year-on-year in 2021 to $76.2 billion, and that's according to the World Bank. In Egypt, out of a total of $5.23 billion spent on infrastructure PPPs in 2021, around $5 billion were from the transport sector for a railway project. These figures include the high-speed railway, which will cost $4.5 billion. A consortium of private companies will work alongside the state-owned National Authority for Tunnels on the project. Egypt also signed a $165 million agreement for the Komombo 200-megawatt solar plant, which will see a Saudi renewables company work alongside the Egyptian Electricity Transmission Company and the new and renewable energy authority under a 25-year BOO, or Build, Own and Operate framework. The project has received financing from the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development and the African Development Bank. We'll be back. Welcome back. You're watching the Business Insider here on Nile TV International. Industry and Agriculture 4.0. This is our topic tonight. Usually when we say 4.0, we're talking about studying in university, and that's why I'm honored in the presence of Dr. Khaled Youssef Kamel. He is the Principal Advisor for Industry 4.0 Alliance at the Ministry of Military Production. He's also the head of the Space Communications Department in the Faculty of Navigation and Space Technology at Beni Suef University. Dr. Khaled, a pleasure having you on the show here tonight.
It's my pleasure.
So, Industry and Agriculture 4.0 is our topic tonight. Let's watch this report and then start our discussion.
Industry 4.0 refers to a new phase in the Industrial Revolution that focuses heavily on interconnectivity, automation, machine learning, and real-time data. It encompasses the Internet of Things and smart manufacturing, combines physical production and operations with smart digital technology, machine learning, and big data to create more holistic and better connected ecosystems for companies that focus on manufacturing and supply chain management. While every company and organization operating today is different, they all face a common challenge: the need for connectedness and access to real-time insights across processes, partners, products, and people. Industry 4.0 isn't just about investing in new technology and tools to improve manufacturing efficiency. It's about revolutionizing the way an entire business operates and grows. The world of manufacturing is changing. To survive and thrive, companies have to be willing to invest in this new approach. There are 4 distinct industrial revolutions that the world either has experienced or continues to experience. The first industrial revolution happened between the late 1700s and the early 1800s, where manufacturing evolved from focusing on manual labor to a more optimized form of labor performed by people through the use of water and steam-powered engines and other types of machine tools. The second industrial revolution was in the early part of the 20th century, with the introduction of steel and the use of electricity in factories. This enabled manufacturers to increase efficiency and help make factory machinery more mobile. It was during this phase that the mass production concept, like the assembly line, were introduced as a way to boost productivity. The third industrial revolution started in the late 1950s and slowly began to emerge as manufacturers began incorporating more electronic and eventually computer technology into their factories. During this period, manufacturers began experiencing a shift that put less emphasis on analog and mechanical technology and more on digital technology and automation software. The fourth industrial revolution, or Industry 4.0 as we refer to it now, emerged while emphasizing digital technology from recent decades to a whole new level with the help of interconnectivity through the Internet of Things, access
Okay, so kindly excuse this technical hiccup. We return to Dr. Khaled Youssef Kamel, the head of the Space Communications Department and the Principal Advisor for Industry 4.0 Alliance at the Ministry of Military Production. Once again, a pleasure having you on the show.
It's really my pleasure
tonight.
being here. Yeah.
So let's start with a layman's explanation. The fourth industrial revolution, Industry 4.0. What does that mean?
Yeah, actually, as mentioned in the report, that we have 4 main revolutions that our industry faced across the last 2 decades. Mainly, the revolution is in the energy, so and the communication. So, if we, for example, at the beginning of the 1700 and the 1800, the humanity depended on the bio energy, the animals, the laborers. So most of the work was done manually, and so there was no room for mass production. So at that time, people was focusing on manufacturing the elements point by point, part by part. And after that, with the invention of the steam and the burning of the fuels, we reach a new invention step, which is simply how to create energy from how to develop energy from the cook and the fuel. So at that time, the human being was able to produce energy without the need for the animals and the livestock for creating or for developing this energy. The third part of the third revolution was with the invention of how to transfer this energy, because at that time the manufacturers suffered a big cost to transfer the fuel tanks across the countries, across the regions, to the farms. So that time the need was how to transfer it fast and safe. And that was the invention of the electricity. So that's why the second revolution that that scientists invented the electricity, helped the transfer of energy, and thus lives becoming easier. And then with the invention of the electronics and the computer technologies, we go to the third revolution. And that time, the third revolution was how to control and make a mass production, develop a lot of product parts in a short time with a minimal effort. And that was the computer numerical control, the programmable logic control, and all of that technology that was associated at that time, including what we call the SCADA systems and that type of data acquisition and advisory and supervisory systems and platforms. Now, the world, like 10, 12 years ago, was speaking about, is speaking currently about what we call the Industry 4.0, and now the Industry 4.0 Plus, and what is after the Industry 4.0. Industry 4.0 means that we need to make the collaborative our environment more collaborative, more cooperative. So, for example, if we see the manufacturing environment or the agriculture environment, we see that we have machines, we have material, we have yield, we have energy, we have resources like water and fuel, and we need to ensure that all of these elements of the industry is talking to each other, integrating them, and making sure that they are talking to each other seamlessly. And this means that we reach what we call a cooperative, optimized, and collaborative environment. So we use the technology as a tool to ensure that the elements of the industry is becoming integrated. And that's what we call it the Industry 4.0. If we go behind the Industry 4.0, we are talking about cognitive environment. So we are moving from the integrated and collaborative environment to what we call the cognitive environment. Means more comprehension to the environment, looking for more optimized production, least cost production, more efficient operations, seamlessly without the intervention of the human being. And that is based mainly on the technology inventions of artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, blockchain technologies, and all of that technology is popular to our world today.
All right, that's when it comes to industry.
Yeah.
When it comes to agriculture,
the agriculture more or less have the same challenges. For example, our agriculture today is the many challenges associated with our agriculture today is the water, for example, the water management. That's why we see that we need to measure the drop per crop. So this is what we call the precise agriculture. Precise agriculture means how we are precise enough in making the maximum yield out of the lowest resources with a good quality. So if we need to be competitive, to be more productive for a yield, with a less amount of water, with a less amount of fertilizers, with a pesticide control for better climate impacts and that stuff, and global warming and all of that. So we need to make sure that our agriculture as well is optimized using this technology. So that's the reflection on the agriculture. That's why we call it agri-tech or agro 4.0, which is the...
Because technology is also embedded within the process.
Exactly. And this is typically, the revolution is there. The process transformation, what we call the digital transformation. But
in emerging economies, usually you have a trend to adopt the traditional way of doing things. Can businesses and projects be sustained by adopting this new direction?
The the secret in the application of such type of technologies today is the economic impact. So if we...
Economies of scale, you mean?
The economy in general.
Okay.
Yani, for example, we did a clear case studies all over the last 3 or 4 years we'll be discussing. We managed to improve the bottom line of the financial statement of the organization by 2.3%. So this means it has a clear impact on what we call the cost of goods sold, and thus the profitability of the organization, and thus the economy of the organization. Another example in agriculture, if we manage to deliver 3 tons of a specific plant using fifths or 20% of the water needed, means we save water, means we are more economic in operation. Also the same if we manage to increase or improve the quality of the product.
There was a discussion on how 1 acre of wheat, for example, used to produce a certain amount of yield, and now with the new technology, this yield has been quadrupled or even more.
Yeah, that's water treatment way, and that's one of the technologies that we worked, or there was a good experimental work on it in the last 1 or couple of years ago. And that was the water, how to manage the desalination of water, means the percentage of the minerals in the water, and the impact of that on the crop yield without the effect of the quality of the plant. So that was one of the cases. And so to do this, you need the technology to measure this contribution.
There are definitely pros and cons to adopting this new approach. One would tend to think that when you're talking about industry, for example, of the pros is the economic impact. Of the cons would be replacing the human labor by technology. And in countries where you need to supply job opportunities, offer job opportunities, you need labor-intensive projects, if you will. By adopting this new approach, this new technology, this Industry 4.0, how will it affect the labor market, pro and con?
It's a very good question regarding that, because one of the pains that we see in our culture, in our environment, the potential impact on the human being. But I would like to mention that worldwide, the digital transformation and the revolutions of industries and agriculture is not impacting the jobs or the quantity of the jobs, rather than it impacts the type of the job. So it creates, yes, some of the jobs is being deactivated or is being decaying, but another new jobs is being created. So this dictates the transformation of the people themselves. We have 2 cases that we succeed to transform the caliper itself to be more compliant with the technology, and thus become more appealing to the external world. So, example, one of the calipers, which is blue collars or technicians,
blue collars, yeah,
is getting offers from a European side, which was not a common exercise we used to have the last 10 years or 20 years. So this means there is a transformation in the people mindsets, transformation this is transformation in the humanity itself.
And shortage in the other continent's labor market.
And decay, yeah, there is a decay. Usually there is a change. And for example, we have some decades in the past that we used to have water transported to our buildings through people. And now we have the water transported through pipes.
Connected.
Yeah, connected through pipes. So this was a job that decayed. But creates another job for the guys that is managing this piping system and this network. And the chemists behind and all of that stuff.
So you mentioned a very important keyword, managing.
Yeah.
So management is a key word here. If you're going to adopt a new technology, you need qualified management.
Exactly. This is actually the problem, not the problem of the human being the jobs decay, but the problem in the management, how to create a good management styles that is convenient to this. The sponsorship and the management understanding to the need of technology is one of the key elements that mobilize and motivate these type of transformations. We have in our country, we have 2 or 3 cases. One of them in one of the big pharmaceutical industries here in Egypt, which is one of the big companies like Ebico, has a sponsorship on the transformation by management. They push to make the transformation, they plan to do that, and they achieve that. Another similar companies, they didn't manage to achieve the same targets because there is no sponsorship from the management. To the management style, the sponsorship, I mentioned an example of a big organization have a big number of blue collars and white collars, technicians and doctors, and there is no loss in the jobs, and there is an increase in the productivity associated with that. And this is an example of how the management play an important role.
It's an example of proper management.
Proper management, yeah.
What would you say are the drawbacks of this new technology?
The drawbacks of this new technologies...
New approach, rather.
Sorry?
New approach.
New approaches. Actually, as I mentioned, we are now in the fourth revolution stage, and we are moving towards, commercially they name it the fifth revolution, but I can tell it, I say it from the scientific perspective, 4.0 plus or 4 plus. Because the term 4 means, as I mentioned, the collaborative environment. So we can say X 4.0, we can say industry 4.0, agriculture 4.0, even fintech 4.0. So generally 4.0 means we are in the fourth generation of collaborative environments.
Right.
And this is a matter of energy and communication, as I mentioned. But when we talk about what is next, this is a question to the world. What we are expecting? We're expecting a cognitive environment, more comprehending to the dynamics of the market, dynamics of the organization, dynamics of the ecosystem, and then can take a proper decision, a robot in collaboration with the human being.
So, robots and humans.
And human beings. The robots and the human beings, the robots cannot work independently. They are autonomous.
They have to be programmed.
They have to be programmed, but they are autonomous. Even with artificial intelligence, they can take a decision in an autonomous way. But the robots does not have the wisdom style of the human being. They can work on data, information, knowledge, decisions.
Whatever you provide
They are smart,
right.
And they may be smart also, not only based on algorithms. They can take a decisions, but again, we need the decision of the human being. So there is no environment in the world that was 100% depending on robotics. But there is a mix of robotics and human being.
All right. Let's focus now on Egypt. Where are we from the fourth revolution?
On different disciplines, actually on the governmental discipline, which is very important because in the government in general, there is a unified vision that is mandated by His Excellency
Egypt's Vision 2030.
Yeah, Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, for the Egypt 2030 vision, unified vision. There is an effort that is being held today by the Supreme Council of, and also the National Defense Authority for developing the strategy for the Industry 4.0 and the industrial revolutions in general. And this is in light of regulations and legalizations, in light of policies that should be there, also in light of the entities or the organizational change in the government that should support this. Because the important thing in that is the enabling environments. So the enabling environment usually by sponsorship. And the sponsorship...
The political will.
Yeah, the political will. The second part, which is the private, play an important role because the real contribution that is held today in the private sector. We have one case in the Ministry of Military Production, which is Factory 300. It succeeded to make a digital transformation with a good sponsorship also from the management. And also we have several entities within the private sector willing and have the incentive to go for this. Why the private is more willing than the others? Because it has an economic impact. This one was one of the points, the advantages that we mentioned. So the economic impact is a good incentive for the private sector, but Also, the government is planning to put an incentive scale through our industrial centers and the Ministry of Industry. And there is an effort for putting an incentive plans for small manufacturers to adopt the technologies and how to help them to understand. Because in Egypt, we have 3 scale of manufacturers. We have the small, we have the medium, and we have the big-sized manufacturers, and they are the ones who are interested in this. This is the status of our country today.
What sectors have you seen fruits come out of in the industrial sector?
Food and beverage, pharmaceutical. I mentioned a case of Ebico in the pharmaceutical was a real case of adopting the digital transformation and the Industry 4.0 by book. Food and beverage, we have several cases in the food and beverage. We also have the part of the heavy metals in the cabling industry, for example. That was one of the cases. So these are the 3 main, and the wafers, the wafer industries. We have a case for the wafer industries.
Wafers?
Wafers, the carpets industries and...
weavers,
yeah.
Right. Okay, what about agriculture?
Agriculture is still behind the industry. Now there are programs supported by the Ministry of Agriculture, but still not in the maturity stage, still in the early stage, and this is because of the nature of the farmers itself. So adopting of technology by these people and to pay in the technology is not...
What do you need in order to lure them into adopting such technology? Do you need, for example, establishing cooperatives within different areas so as to attract the farmers and make them aware of the importance of adopting this new approach?
Strategically in the world, we have 2 usually approaches to make technology appealing to people. The first approach is to put a model, and the model is gaining a clear what we call the market strategy. Market strategy means we put a model, the model has a clear benefit, and all of the people witness this benefit, and so they go for following it, what we call the market strategy. And another strategy is the incentive, which is instead of...
You incentivize them to adopt the approach.
Exactly.
For private investors and foreign private investors to come and invest in the industrial sector or agricultural sector, adopting these new approaches, what do we need as an environment, an enabling environment, an attractive environment to offer?
In the regulation, we need some enablers from the regulation perspective. Europe, for example, for the sustainability, how to push factories to comply with the sustainability programs, because our environment is being impacted, but their pockets are not impacted. So generally, the manufacturer maybe is not aware of the environment impacts, maybe doesn't care about the environment impacts, but we as a country, we as a world, cares a lot about the environment impacts. So how did the European style is pushing people to do that? By incentives. So when you transform your factory to be more compliant with the environment regulations, then you're going to be in a better position in terms of maybe taxations, maybe more facilitations from the banking, maybe more facilitation for the external export, and that's. So this is the style that is being adopted today, and we in Egypt is moving toward a similar styles. We provide in Egypt funding programs, for example. So the funding programs enables, motivate manufacturers to adopt this. Also in Egypt, we are developing some technologies. We according to the programs being announced by the government, we encourage the manufacturers, even of the digital products, to be in the market more. We need to have more nationalization for our products. We need to nationalize the digital products, the security programs. We need the products to be Egyptian, means less cost. When it becomes less cost with a little foreign contribution, means it is more convenient to our farmers and our manufacturers.
Right. Dr. Khaled Youssef Kamel, the head of the Space Communications Department at the Faculty of Navigation and Space Technology, Beni Suef University, and the Principal Advisor for Industry 4.0 Alliance at the Ministry of Military Production. It was a pleasure having you on the show here tonight.
The pleasure is mine. Thank you.
On this note, I'd like to thank you, our viewers, for watching us here on the Business Insider. I'm Ayman Salah. Thanks for watching. Good night.